I know that many people have described your sound as sort of country pop or pop country. Do you have a particular way that you tend to describe it?
Oh, I love this question. So you always have like the artists today that are kind of like doing their little like coin description. You have like Lainey Wilson, who like talks about her stuff as like bell bottom country. I think Russell Dickerson is like lover boy country. In town, my signature sound has kind of been starting to go around as something called tomboy country. And I think the reason why is because when you listen to my music, it's very different. It's very signature. And it's almost a little like leaning like masculine wise, production wise for a girl, which I love. I've always grown up being really into that kind of like Jason Aldean, Keith Urban, like Brad Paisley riff driven country music where you hear like those signature riffs over and over again. And I think like Fading Tattoo and South of Somewhere are probably like the really great descriptions of that on the record because that's just how I like to produce my stuff. I love, like heavy driven bass. I love the sound to be really, really thick and full. And when I started showcasing my stuff in town, one of the biggest compliments I got from Tim Whipperman was like, your stuff almost sounds like kind of masculine, and we like that. And I'm like, that's my energy. I'm one of those people that I'm have a lot of masculine energy for a very feminine woman. So
You mentioned some names like Jason Aldean before. Are those also artists who influenced you as a person when you were growing up?
absolutely. I would say, on so many counts, Jason Aldean has been a huge influence for me because I love his sonic quality. As a producer, especially, he's a pretty big influence. I'd say on, a well-rounded kind of storytelling aspect, Brad Paisley has been a huge influence. I've always loved that he's never had any bounds to what he wants to write about and what he wants to perform. He's so cool because I feel like in a way I kind of encapsulate that same kind of energy to where I'll put a song like Drinkin' Thinkin' out, and his example is putting a song like Celebrity out or like Future out. That's kind of silly and funny, but then he'll come out with something like She's Everything. And you have me on the example of that, wanting to come out with something that's really heartfelt and really touching. So the She's Everything for me on the album, is like the Unmeet You, or the Fading Tattoo, these storyteller songs that have like these really heartfelt storytelling aspects behind them, but still, again, kind of meeting that masculine, like sonic production. So it's kind of, I feel like with my music, it's a melting pot of so many artists, including, a lot of pop influences as well. Vocally, Christina Aguilera, Celine Dion have been huge vocal inspirations for me, with some of the choices that they make. Even Ariana Grande, I watched a video of her one time, how she stacks her vocals, and it was very unique. And I was like, I'm going to bring that aspect to country music and start stacking like that, because there's nobody doing it. And it's been really, really fun for me to take all these beautiful best parts of what these artists are doing and kind of make them into this country pop rock blend.
Well, you have Fading Tattoo out now. Talk about the story behind that.
Yes. Fading Tattoo is on the whole album. That's out now.
Equilibrium.
Yes, Equilibrium. And Fading Tattoo is the story of, it's rough. It's a story of commitment in so many ways, and watching that commitment fade away on an emotional aspect, but also having this physical commitment in the form of a tattoo, and literally watching that all fade away in front of you. And it was written with Sam Grow and Steve Virginia and myself. I had the hook in my phone forever because it was influenced by my own story, of literally getting a matching tattoo and believing that, this was going to be a forever love, and marking it, making a physical mark with it and watching it all fade away. And it's a little heart wrenching. And I feel like, it's the story that I want to tell for anybody that may not have, gone to those extents of making that type of commitment, but, you know, maybe making, a commitment in another form that now they're stuck with it. And, I hope that that resonates with someone that could be going through that or has gone through that.
What kind of response then have you been receiving to fans to the song? Do they see what you see in it?
It's been wild. Like
How
I, you
tattoos have
know,
you at this point?
so
How
what?
many tattoos have you seen at this point? So like,
The weirdest
oh,
tattoos that I get are when I see my actual face. I have literally had people tattoo my face before, and I'm like, oh my God, that's one hell of a commitment of its own. Like, wow, what an honor. It's definitely always wild for me when I get that. I literally screenshot them all because I'm like, how is this happening? But no, I do. I've seen a lot of tattoos. I've heard a lot of stories from all aspects of the song. I'd say one of the biggest songs that has been really flooding in my inboxes and that I'm hearing like people are really resonating with, which is wild to me, is Fly Away. Fly Away is literally my true story. It's the most vulnerable personal song I've ever written and released, and it's about when I was going through the abuse that I was going through with my dad, and literally looking out the window and seeing these birds fly away when their circumstances weren't suitable for them anymore, and how I wanted to be able to do that so badly during that time in my life. But I always had this feeling in my heart that there was something bigger out there for me, and there's this sense of hope that I wanted to keep in the chorus of that song. And to know that the way that we wrote it is touching people so much, where they're reaching out, and I've literally had people be like, this song is one of the only things that I'm listening to right now as a reminder that I need to hold on to my hope. Or even people that have texted me saying that they have thought about taking their life, and that song keeps them. I mean, that's why I do music. I wherever God takes me with this career, it's in his will. But I do music because of that, because I want to share my stories and know that my vulnerability and my honesty is going to resonate with someone in whatever that way may be, whether it's even just a party song like Chill Billy to something that's heart-wrenching and still hopeful like Fly Away. And from fans and even from media outlets, I honestly can't believe the overwhelming amount of love I've received on this album. I can't believe there hasn't been any hate, honestly, because there's always a hater somewhere.
I'm
But
not trying to jinx it.
yeah, right. I mean, we had one article come out where it literally said in 12 songs, Jesslee's album encapsulates the breath of human existence. And that is a profound statement to make. And I'm taken back. I really am. I'm taken back by the love, and I'm so grateful for it. And I just hope that it can keep reaching the people it needs to reach at the right time, because that's why I write music.
Was it cathartic then for you to sing Fly Away when you're in the booth singing it, and sort of let this go for you?
That is an excellent question. It was. I think the most therapeutic part was writing it. And then when I had to get in the booth and I had to sing it, I mean, I'm just a very honest person. I'm Italian, so I tell it like it is. When I was in the booth singing it, there were many times where I actually would sing my parts and then I'd have to step back and take a break, because it was the only time in my life I've ever had to do that on a song. I literally had to take a break because it's my truth. It's like sharing my diary and in song. And it was truly a wild experience. It was bizarre singing that song and being so emotional over it. I feel like there's always been an emotional tie to all of my music, having, being the writer and being the producer and having my hands on everything. There's definitely always this emotional tie. But that one is just so personal to me. And then also the fact that my grandfather plays the piano on it. I mean, it's just, you know, every aspect of that song is so vulnerable and so personal. And it was cathartic in its own way, but I would be lying if I said that it wasn't hard.
Well, it's just a beautiful song and a beautiful tribute to the strength you have within yourself, and a gift, as you see, to other people as well, to inspire them and give them hope as well. Um,
Thank
is
you.
that what you hope everyone takes away from Equilibrium as a whole, maybe?
I do. I think when I wrote this album, because I was writing it throughout my 4 years in Nashville. This year in July was 4 years of me being here. And it's a compilation of a ton of different seasons in my life. And that's why I chose Equilibrium as the title, because it took all of those seasons to feel the balance that I'm feeling right now with my life. And, you know, I wanted to take all those messages and all those, you know, different styles and different kinds of energy and different seasons, and you know, almost tell this story of this balance of life, and kind of remind people that the yin and the yang is what makes life beautiful. You know, it is the chillbilly moments where you're partying with your people in your hometown, but it's also, you know, the bad that balances that out and makes those moments so special. And that's what I wanted this album to be a reminder of for people, that, you know, life doesn't have to be all, you know, rainbows and butterflies to be beautiful. And even in the bad times, um, if you're going through something, it doesn't mean you still can't be happy. You still have the right to be happy and smile and feel good, even if things aren't necessarily going right in your life.
Well, is there a tour then coming for this album? Are you headed out to play some local gigs?
You know, I don't really play much in Nashville. I've been doing the last, well, besides COVID, obviously. But in 2019, I'd say that that was one of my biggest tours. I was going all over pretty much everything central to the east side of the United States. And we're looking to finally start expanding that again. You know, with everything going on, I took this time, especially as the producer on the album, to really make sure that, since this was my first full length album and I was hands on in every single part of it, I wanted to make sure that I had the time to um, properly create this song, you know, this baby of mine, you know. And I was off the road a lot more than I normally am. But next year, you know, it's looking like we're gonna kick it back to full force, and we're gonna be doing, you know, a little more of an expansion than we had left off last year, but a lot of central and a lot of East United States. We've hit, you know, everywhere from like Wisconsin to New York to Connecticut down to Florida to Georgia. So yes, I do a lot of touring, and I'm very excited to get back on the road again.
You were on The Voice and you were exceptional
Thank
during your
you.
performance. Who gave you the best advice while you were on the series, and what was it that's carried with you?
Well, if we're talking about anybody outside during that time, like not the coaches, it's definitely my grandparents. My grandmother and my grandfather have always been my greatest inspiration. They were there. They flew out for my blind audition when I was flown out for the show. It all happened so fast because I never even auditioned for the show. I was just invited to come out, and they were there before I knew it. My family's there, and the whole time, you know, and I take this with me everywhere, and I always give the same advice to anybody that asks me for advice for whatever reason. But it's always just stay true to you. I really believe stay true to who you are, and there is a season for your uniqueness to shine. You know, I've always been told that I'm so different. I'm so different. And when I first came out to this town, it was like people would tell me like it was a negative thing. And that same thing that one person thought was negative was the same exact reason why, you know, I had signed my record deal, and I'm doing what I'm doing now and making the music I want to make now. And it is harder. It is harder to be a trailblazer. It is harder to be different. It really is. And usually will take a little longer, but I still hold the hope and I believe from what's been going on in my life that um that it makes you also stand out and have that longevity in the end. And I want to believe that, that's my path. And so I think for my grandparents, that has always been a huge thing in my life. And that was one of the first times that they would hone it in my head. They're like, make sure you stay you on this show. And then on The Voice itself, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that, I got was, weirdly enough, it was actually just to maintain my vocal properly. I was very raw talent when I came on there, never had any sort of vocal training in my life. I'd never gone to any sort of coaching. Everything was just kind of like, this raw energy of, me. And it was exciting to finally start diving into learning about my vocal more and learning how to preserve my vocal and protect it and exercise it and expand it. So definitely the vocal coaching in general and having that for the first time in my life was, I think it was huge for me. I think while I was on the show, I ended up like going up an octave in my vocal, like my vocal range. Yeah. So it was really good to really start like learning about my actual instrument.
It's so beautiful too. I know you've never master, something like that because you can always push yourself in different ways, but you do it so well.
Thank
Is there
you.
someone, you're welcome. Is there someone you would love to collaborate with on a song in the future?
Yeah, I've got a lot from all different ranges. I wrote Fading Tattoo with Sam Grow. We always get told all of the time, just us, we write together, on a basis. And, it's funny because every time I bring a new friend over to write with us, they're always like, you guys need to collab together. And I'm like, you know what? We'd put out a really dope song together. So I feel like, as an up and coming artist, I feel like with Sam, that would be a really cool collab. And then, one day, I would love to be able to do something which I feel like I would vibe really well with like Jelly Roll. You see two artists that are kind of so different with Lainey Wilson and Jelly Roll. They have very different sounds, but they put out that version of Save Me, and it was so cool. And I feel like I've really loved seeing him hone into his vocal, because when he first started, he wasn't really singing. He was kind of like rapping a little more. And I feel like we could put out something really cool together, especially too with our teams knowing each other. It could be something in the works one day. And I just feel like it could be something really, really cool that could happen. And I feel like it'd be something people would enjoy just because stylistically we have a lot in common. And like, of course, I'm a huge fan of Brad Paisley. So I think he's just one of the most well-rounded artists in country music or just in general. Being most people, like some people that don't necessarily go to his concerts, don't realize how incredible of a guitarist he is. He's like one of the best guitarists in this town. He puts a lot of his own tracks down where a lot of people, they come in and they have session players. I think there's just so much respect for that. The writer that he is, the artist that he is. So him just being to me what like on another level and being that legend kind of level of country music, that would totally be a full circle moment for me to it's a crazy industry. Like we were at the People's Choice Awards the other day and Winona gave this speech about how at one time she was opening for Tim McGraw and the tables turned, and and it's wild how this industry works. And you have to put that energy out there because it could happen one day. So I'm definitely full force gonna go for the Brad Paisley collab at some point.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the beautiful music that you make?
Thank you. I would just again, I would say that the advice that my nanny always gave me, it's always the advice that I would give to anybody, just like anything that you're doing in life, whether it's a creative dream, whether it's to be, to own a business, to be a lawyer, to be a doctor, to do, anything with a trade. Like, I think it's just always show up no matter what. Show up, show out, do the best that you can do, because that will stand out even if your best isn't necessarily the best in the moment. It all compounds, and always make sure that you're staying true to you.